Hello, crafty friends. This is Sandy from Ledoux Designs, and tonight we're going to play with colors. Not that we don't do colors all the time, because we usually do, but tonight we're going to play around with all kinds of different colors tonight. Generally, when I color, I like my colors to be dark and really wow factor. Hi Linda, hi Laura. And tonight I'm gonna try, no guarantees, for pastel colors. And we're gonna color these macaroons right here, like the big long ones. So we can do all kinds of different colors. Now, Dale says these look like hamburgers. So we may stamp one on the side and see if we can make it look like a hamburger. But I thought that it would be fun to just play around with the different colors, because macaroons can be like a million different colors. But they have a lot of texture to them, so we are going to have to show some texture. Hey, if somebody could say hi so I can make sure comments are coming through, that would be super great. Hi, Cheryl.
Laura said hi.
Huh?
Laura said hi.
Oh, she did? I missed it. Hi, Laura. Okay, so I'm not intending to make a card out of this tonight. I just want to do some coloring with you guys. Maybe a little bit back to kind of basic coloring again, but with some flair.
See, Laura thought they were hamburgers.
You thought they were hamburgers? Dale thought they were hamburgers too. How funny is that? I was like, they're called slimline macaroons, so they gotta be macaroons.
It's a double meat hamburger.
Yep, it does look like double meat and cheese hamburger. So let's stamp one of those separately, because maybe we'll play around with making it a hamburger as well.
Oh, does Sassy Club have a hamburger stamp?
They have a Happy Meal. They have a Happy Meal die, but they have the hamburger, but I don't have that one.
Oh, you could do that with them.
Yeah, I might have to order that one. Okay. I know they look like hamburgers. It makes me laugh. Okay, so we're going to get started. I left a lot of room on the outside so we can do some of our blending of colors on the outside. So if we need to play around with making sure that they match, kind of like I do, but not usually on screen. So you can see how I make sure that my colors match.
You know what it is? It's the Arby's bag of roast beef burger sandwiches.
Arby's roast beef sandwiches.
Or you buy the bag of them.
That's funny. Now, this is a really big stamp, so I wasn't sure if it was going to stamp on the first try, and it did. It looks great, but there's just a few spots that have a little bit of the white shining through, so we're just going to stamp it one more time to make sure it's extra good. This is going to be fun. I've never colored these. I have had them for a long time, but because it's such a large stamp, I don't color them quite as often.
Look at the third one down.
I'm making you hungry.
Look at the third one down. I bet if you did these and put googly eyes on them.
Oh my gosh. Googly eyes. See if there's some in that thing right there.
That would be funny.
I think I have some. No, they wouldn't be in that. Oh, well, I guess we can just leave that there. But we're finished with this.
There you go.
Oh, see, Dale found googly eyes. So it sounds like Dale's hungry. I know he made a super good dinner tonight, but we do like to have a little bit of a snack every now and then. So at night, usually after the live, so generally we're feeling the munchie during the live. But this is going to be fun. I think this is going to be super fun. I have some more. I know those who were watching last Thursday we did a giveaway. And I have a few more items that I want to give away soon. So make sure that you watch on Thursday because we're going to do another giveaway on Thursday. Okay, so I think that the cream color inside, it's usually like the vanilla cream-ish color, and the or it can be chocolate. So you could have vanilla or chocolate, I guess, on the inside. So if I were looking to come up with a cream color, I'm gonna try E53, which is raw silk, but I think it's enough to bring it into a very creamy color. And then I'm gonna try E51, and you just, if you mark them side by side and overlap just the edge, it's to make sure that it all blends like in a smooth line, and it does. So that's how you know that the colors are going to work for you. So just choose any color. So this is E27. These ones are pretty easy. It's 27, 25, 23. So you're generally pretty sure it's going to work. When they're about 2 numbers apart from each other, most of the time they work. So see how smooth that is? It just perfectly. So the ones that we want to be chocolate will be this color, and the ones that we want to be vanilla will be this color. So let me show you what happens when you try to blend the colors that are side by side, but they don't work. It doesn't blend nicely. So let me grab a few of them so I can show you. I'm trying to look at some of the ones that are the best. Okay. So let's try. I think these generally usually match pretty well, but the higher number is RV52, and then there's an RV42, and then an RV34. So there's 3 different colors, and you would normally think that out of these 2, the higher numbers would be darker, but I don't think it's going to work out that way. So RV34, the tone, the last number, is higher. So this one is going to be darker than the other 2. This one is RV52. So it doesn't really blend. If you see, it doesn't really blend it together. You can still see all the lines in there. I'm going to hold it up close so you can see it. You see how these all blended very nice and smoothly, but this one leaves the line. It doesn't blend as well. So you need something in between that. So if I came in with the RV42 and I put it over here, it's just going to consume. Let me zoom in so you guys can really see what I'm looking at. Okay. So if I use the 42 over top of the 52, it just overtakes that 52 and it's gone. So if you wanted to do it, you would have to start with the RV34 and then pick up the RV42. You could get a fairly smooth blend. You can tell those are starting to blend together. So you could get that very nicely. And then what happens if we take the 52 and add it to the 42? See how nicely you can get a blend out of that one? So you have to test them to see, this is if we did it in this order, and this is if we did it in this order. You could probably get away with doing it with the RV42 first. Not sure if the 34 is going to be too dark for that. But let's just look at it so you can kind of get an idea. So yeah, the 34, it overtakes the 42, and then you're not getting a blend, you're getting a just complete takeover of that color. And we don't want this, we want this. So we'll do one of the macaroons in this combination that we just tested so you can see how it works. So we have to start with the RV34 and then go to the 42 and then the 52. Now I'm showing them to you like this. Hi, Joy. I'm showing them to you like this. And while these caps do look like they go dark to light, that is not always the case. So don't judge by the, Dale. So don't judge by the caps, because the cap colors are not necessarily the correct color. Go by testing it on the paper. Which way is it going to blend the best? And if you get this kind of thing on all of them and you can't get them to blend, you got to pick another color. So generally what I do when I'm trying to come up with a whole brand new combination that I've never used before is pick a few colors and then test them like this to see if they work. So let's use this one, for example. This is FV2. FV2 Fluorescent Dull Violet. Now, this color right here, I love this color. But if you go to a purple, because this appears to be purple, if you go to a purple color, you are not going to find one to match this. Why, you say? Because it's more blue than purple. You see the blue in it? So I know right off which ones will go with it and which ones won't. So I'm going to pull the ones that will, and then we're going to try some purples to see how it goes. So some of my favorite purples are B17, and then I like, let's see, what can I put with that? Let's try V25. So here's what they look like. This is what I mean by the caps. When you look at the caps, they look like they would go together. But when you take that, this is our FV2, and you take that V17 and you go over it, it's not, it overtakes this fluorescent, and it's not the same shade. If you go to V25, we'll try it on this side. It could go with V17. It'll be a little hard to blend, but it can. And if you go on this side, it's just not going to blend with that fluorescent. So if you start trying to move them around, this color isn't going to work with either one of them. Not easily, anyway. Maybe with some tip to tip you could get there, but that color is not the color I wanted. I wanted this color. And these are way more muted than that. So I had to go into the B color family. So let's try first if these will work. This is B66 and B63. While they look a little bit on the blue side, they also look a little bit like this purple as well. So let me see what happens when we put it with our FV. So let's start with the B66. Not as dark as I thought it was going to be. I think the FRV might be darker. Hi, Beth. So that one's a maybe. It's real close, but still looks like it overtakes that color. So my suggestion would be to switch the colors. Start with FV2 and then go to B66. See how it overlaps and blends? So much better than this one. So we could definitely do that. And then B63. Still a little bit more on the blue side and definitely lighter than I really wanted it to be. So we need to bring in another purple in order to make this look more purple-ish. So I have a couple of purples we can try. We can try V15. That's a little bit too purple. We can try V06. Still not the right color. So you just got to play around with the colors until you come up with something that you really like. So let's try BV13. A little better. That one will blend well with this one that we used, which is our BV66. So because we can't get this absolute purple color out of any of the Copic colors that I see down here in my stash, I would say that we would want to pull in either that V12 or maybe this V01 and just do it over top to get a brighter color. I think we need it to be darker though. Maybe V04. Oh, V04 will do it. So that's what I call overpainting, and that will bring those two colors up to this purple fluorescent color. That is the hardest one, I think, to match. The rest of them, not so difficult. All these colors that we're using right here, we are going to make macaroons out of them. So let's start with those. And then if you guys have a marker that you like to use but can't make it match anything else, we can try and match something tonight. So in addition to this blue, I grabbed the one step darker, which is B69. See how dark that is? I want to use that for my shadow. So I'm going to put that over here to the side as well. And then I had the same thing going on with my RVs. I need a shadow color for this. So let me see which one looks better. Maybe RV 66 was my first go-to. That one's pretty good. Or 55. Nope, it's going to have to be the 66. I think that the 69 is too dark. Yeah, it's a little bit too much. It's overpowering. So we're going to use the RV66 for our shadow. So sometimes until you get really used to your colors and knowing what colors blend and what colors look good, you have to do all of the testing until you feel really comfortable. So let's start with we'll make this one the cream color. So that E53. Does anybody have any questions so far? This is the darkest color. And I'm putting it along the top because I'm assuming that this part of the macaroon is hanging over the frosting or whatever you put in a macaroon. I don't even presume to be someone who would ever cook a macaroon because I don't do anything in the kitchen. So I wouldn't even begin to tell you how that works or what that's called. However, there we go. This is E51. And what I'm going to do is go along the bottom with this one. It's a little bit lighter than the last one because you'll be able to see this a little bit better. And then I'm going to just barely go along the edge of the darker one that I put up there so that I can, work out that line that's there. And then E50 will go along the middle to smooth that out. It's very, very light. This E50 is very, very light. So now we have this center part of the macaroon. However, I feel like we need just a little bit more depth, and I don't really want to pull in E55. So I'm going to give that like a little second or two to dry. And then I'm going to come back in with my E53 and add just a little bit more of that deep color up here. Because I want us to have, quite a bit of depth up there underneath. And anywhere that the artist put the lines, Now, in order to soften that up a bit, I'm going to skip the middle color and go to E50. And that's where I'm going to soften that edge with E50. Because if I come in with 51, I'm going to just blend that out and lose that depth. Now, that really would look good as a hamburger if we did it in brown. You've never tried a macaroon? I had a friend who made them once, and I got to eat some of them, and they were so good. They were really yummy. I mean, I wanted to eat a whole bunch of them. One was not enough. So let's play with the purples first. Okay, we're going to hold off on B69. That's the darkest color that we had. And we're going to play with these four that we chose, which was FV2, B66, BV13, and an overlay of VO4. And since there's a bunch of variation with how to do this, I want to go ahead and start with this one. So this is B66. This is what I chose as my darkest color. Oh no, I think I chose the fluorescent one as the darkest color. So see, good thing I have my little scale down there. So I'm going to go ahead and start with FV2. We're going to do this one. I'm going to do up here at the top where it's overshadowed by the macaroon above it. And then along this line right here, usually pretty dark in there. And then this part is very airy, and that's why they have all these little lines in here, because it's supposed to show that there's air in them, so there's some areas that are deeper openings and have a lot of shadow in it. So for now, I'm going to follow the artist drawn lines because that is the reason they put them in there. And we have the first part done. Now we're going to go to the B66. This is color number 2. We have 3 colors, so this one I really want to do the edges with this one. This is going to be my mid-tone color. Now, if you have 4 markers of the same variety, you can choose whether you want the second or the third to be your shadow color. I mean your true color. That's your choice. You get to choose that to go around the outside. So we're kind of doing above and below that line that was the darkest, and then we're trying to add a little bit more in this depth area. We don't want to put too much because you got to have that highlight as well. And we're only doing 1/2 of our little macaroon at a time. BV13 is the next one. And this is where we're going to blend them together. Those 2 colors, we're going to mix them together. So I'm just kind of doing my little back and forth. If I have a spot that's going to need to be blended, I'll have to go over it again. But just where the line is. I'm using the side of the marker so I can put more ink on the paper, make it a little bit thicker. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to fill in these other areas, but try not to go over the dark. I don't want to lighten the dark, I just want to fill in the white areas. Now, that purple looks pretty. You finally made another live. Hi, Kim. Yeah, so that purple looks pretty, but it doesn't, it's not a what, there's no wow factor. I mean, it does look like airy holes in this area, and that's great, but it does kind of look like it's all one color. And that's why I said we were probably going to have to pull in a darker color. So we're going to pull in the B69 now, which normally we use first when we're doing a shadow color, but I didn't want to overpower this image to make it really dark. Now, normally I would, because you guys know I'm a huge fan of the dark colors. But for this particular situation, I didn't want it to be dark. I wanted it to stay more on the light side. So I'm just building in where I want that darkest color to be. So in a few of these places along the edges, I'd like to add just a little bit so they look like they're a little bit deeper. And it's starting to come together now. I'm liking it a little bit better. Let's put a little bit more up here. So we have our little macaroons stacked on top of each other. And then I'm going to come back with my fluorescent color again. And I'm going to extend this out. Start building that a little bit more into a macaroon. And then a little bit above this line. So we get that really nice separation. Now it's starting to really fill in. Now remember, we wanted it to be that more purple color, so we're just going to go over the whole thing with this VO4 to kind of lighten up that color, and it's going to help blend that top line that we just put in there. Look at how this overlay brings it back to that purple color. It's so pretty. We have to do the same thing with down here, but we want to touch this much lighter, with a lighter hand than what we did the top, because we just want to barely get that color in. Just a little bit. So I keep missing a few spots because I'm trying not to touch the paper too much at all. And then look at how pretty that purple is. It's way back to that fluorescent purple that I was looking for at the beginning. And I really, really like it. So let's do the bottom real quick. Starting off with our FV2. I'm going to show you another thing I'm going to add for texture in this, but I want to have both sides done. So I'm going to start this bottom part right here. This one's on the bottom, so I want it to be much darker on the underside. So I'm filling that in pretty heavily there. And then again, we're going to put some depth in this line right here. You know what a macaroon looks like. You know that this is the airy part and this is the more solid. So I'm going to start doing that, all these little lines again. Just start building in that color. And then we're going to switch to our B66. I'm definitely using a heavier hand for this, maybe more like a 3 versus that barely 1 we were doing earlier on the top section. Just filling in some of that, and then we're making these a little bit darker. so that we have just a little bit more of that airy part going on. I'm also going to do just a little bit thicker down here now that we're using this lighter color. BB13 is next.
Beth says watching you color is so relaxing.
Yay! I like that. Don't you just love finding something that you can watch color and just be relaxed for a little while you're winding down? That's why I like to do these at night. It's so soothing when it just blends together like that. But you can definitely tell that the bottom part is more blue than the top, and that's because we haven't done the overlay part. So for this one, remember, we don't go over the dark colors. We just fill in the whites.
She's watching ink dry.
Watching ink dry, yep. That is right. Okay, now we're going to come back in with our fluorescent color again. Whatever we did at the top, we have to do at the bottom so that they match. And we're going to fill in that real dark line down here again. Oh, I think we need to do B69 first, the real dark one. Let's do that one first. Now this is going to build in quite a bit more depth, because this is a really dark color. And we don't want them to look smooth because it's not. I'm going to add a little bit to a few of these so that we get it to looking a little bit airy, if you will. And then we're going to do this just a little bit up from here. Not very far, because we just want it to be along the bottom. Now the fluorescent color. I think the fluorescents are sometimes hard to use. It depends on which one you choose. The blues, I think they work extremely nicely together. So this is the fluorescent that we're extending out just to start getting that color back in there. I'm going to go right under this line. And then we're going to do the VO4. So this is the same process we did before. We're going to do the back and forth. Blend those two colors together. Now we already knew this was going to work because we tested it before we started. So we didn't have to worry about, oh, what if it doesn't work out? We already knew it was going to work. And now I'm going to do the really light touch with this color just to bring that airy part to the same color shade. So now we have this really nice macaroon, but we need just a little bit more texture to it. And that is where the colorless blender comes in. So this one, we're going to start moving a little bit of the ink around to leave some open airy spaces. And I'll show you what that looks like. The longer you leave this pen on the paper, the more it's going to move the color. So if you want a large spot, you're going to hold it there for a long time. If you want a small spot, you're going to hold it there for just a couple of seconds or two. And basically what we're doing is just moving this ink around to kind of give us that impression of this having some texture to it. So it's starting to get there, but I need just a little bit more. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to start again over the same spots that I did. And just put a little bit more in there. And notice I'm not doing just a plain circle or anything. I'm just kind of moving it around because I want the ink to move, but not in one circular splotchy whatever. I want it to move around in a crazy kind of look, if that makes sense. So you can already see the difference happening here that is not here just by using the colorless blender. So in talking, I gave it a few seconds to dry, and now we're going to go and do just a little bit more, because sometimes if you get a lot of color in there, it'll move it and then it'll move back a little bit. So you have to do it a couple of times to get that shade that you really want to see. Now you've probably seen other people do this with spots or scales, but this is how you would do it if you just wanted it to look textured. See how nice that is? It makes a big difference. It changed it a lot. I think that when I'm looking at it, I feel like I need a darker separation between the part that we're lightening up and this part right here. So I'm going to come back in with that really dark color one more time, and I'm just going to leave it alone once I put it in there. So see what a big difference that made? I think that's a lot more helpful that way. So let's do the bottom part. But before we do that, let's wipe our marker off, because see how there was some purple on the tip of the marker? We're going to wipe that off. We'll get a better result when we come down here. And I'm not holding it there with a lot of pressure. I'm just kind of skimming it along the top, because I just want to move that color a bit. I don't want to make a circle or anything. So I'll show you what I mean. If you want it to move a whole lot, like in a circle shape, you could do it like this. See? You get spots. So in this case, we're kind of skimming along the top so that we're moving a little bit of it, but not a whole circle of anything. So you can make bubbles like this. It's a lot of fun. It definitely gives you some bubble texture if that's what you want. So I'm not doing it in a circle. I'm just kind of skimming along the top with the colorless blender to move that ink around. And then you got to give it a second or two to dry so that ink can continue to move, and then you have to go over it again. That's just the way that it works. Don't be afraid to go over it again, but don't do too much at one time, because if you do a whole lot at one time, you might get really light spots and really dark spots, and it might not be what you want. So do a little at a time. You can always do more. If you get it too light, you can let it dry and add color back in. I tend to try not to do that. I try to do it lighter so that I don't have to add ink back in. Because sometimes ink doesn't behave real well with colorless blender if you have a lot on there. So in order to add that texture, you have to work it a little bit. Do you see how much different that macaroon looks with the colorless blender added? Now we're going to go in and add this B69 to the bottom, just like we did to the top. And I'm holding the marker completely upright so that my line is really thin I want that line to be super thin, not as thick as the one that's on there right now, just the separating part. So that I have that effect going on. Now, you could do some of this light with the white gel pen, but the white is going to be so white. Like if I show you with the white gel pen, if I do it with the white gel pen, it's going to be so white that I think it's going to look funny in there. I mean, you could do it, but it's a little bit too white that then it becomes unrealistic. I think we need a little bit more in the cream too. So I'm going to come in here and add just a little bit more of this color here. I know it's supposed to be a cream color, but I want to add just a little bit of texture in here. So I'm doing this in the dot, just dot, 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 to get us a little bit of dots in there. And there we go. That's our macaroon number 1.
Now it's time for googly eyes.
What?
Googly eyes.
Oh, Dale says we need googly eyes on it. Like the hamburger one. Wouldn't that just be fun if you put googly eyes on all of them?
It's almost like the Cookie Monster.
Yeah, or the hamburger. I almost couldn't spit that out. It's funny. Okay. They're not sticky right now, but... Okay, so now let's try and play with these colors. They're a little bit different. We don't have to worry about the fluorescent quite as much as we did before. And we're going to make the cream color chocolate instead of vanilla. So let's start with that chocolate area. So I have E27. And now this chocolate area is real thick on this side, but real thin on this side over here. So I'm just going to go along this side. I think if we did, I think if we colored these with no lines, like if we used desert sand or something like that for the color, this would look so much more epic without the black lines in it. So we may have to do one like that. Maybe we won't color them all the way up. We'll just play around with the different colors. So E25, this one, going along that where I have that darkest color. And then I have E23 as the last color for the chocolate. Now, just to make sure I really like it and I'm happy with it, I'm going to come back in with that E27 one more time. And just build that really dark at the top. Like that. Now, we're going to play with these pink, the googly eyes will look like the Hamburglar. I know, right? That's so funny. You should see the other eyes that he pulled out. He is such a comedian. My life is always entertaining. That is for sure. So these are the other colors that we tried. It was RV34, 40, RV42, and RV52. And then also RV66 will be the one that we build the depth with. So we're going to start with these 3 just like we did before. Hey, Mom. RV34 is first. And we're going to try to follow the same type of lines. Again, this one would have probably looked a lot better if I did it in no lines instead of the black lines. But it's already done. I Can't change it right now. But the lighter color also might help you see the placement of what I'm putting in there a little bit better. Remember, we're going to go along these lines that the artist put in there so we can get some depth going on there. Just like this. And I'm going a little bit outside of that line, you know, just filling in some space there. And now we're gonna go ahead and do top and bottom at the same time. So I'm gonna go ahead and start filling this one in. That way it'll give us a little bit of time for these to dry as we're working on them. To dry a little bit in between steps. I think that sometimes that's helpful. Sometimes you don't want it to dry in between, so you want to do smaller steps. Like if you're doing skin tone, whenever you're doing skin tone, you don't want to do too much at one time, because then when you go over it again with that color and it's already dry, it will darken the color. So on a large scale person's face, you're going to get a whole lot of different shades on one skin, and then it's going to make it challenging. So, but in this case, I'm okay with the different levels of color because of the type of product that I'm coloring. So this is RV42. This is also one of my favorite colors out of all the 358 Copic markers. This is one of my favorites because it changes everything when you use it. And you can use it with a lot of different colors to make amazing results. So it's one of my favorites. I found it after I had been coloring for several years. I discovered, I was like, I never used that marker. It doesn't have a plus or minus type. You know, when I first learned, I learned if they were plus or minus two numbers, then they blend well together, and most of the time that works. But this one doesn't have a plus or minus. This one just has, I'm making you all hungry tonight. This one doesn't have, there is no RV41 or, you know, 45, or there is no color that goes with this one. So I started thinking, well, how can I use those colors I never use? And that's when I started discovering how amazing they are when you add them to other colors. You get an entirely different color. So they're my favorites, the ones that really have a wow factor to them. And this is one of them. Because we get this salmon-ish color instead of that mauve color that we started out with. But when we come back to E52, or you could, RV52, or you could use RV32. Like, I knew RV32 would blend very nicely, but that's why I chose 52, so we could see something a little bit different. But when we come back with that 52, it's going to change this color back to a more pink color than what we had before. Fur and skin color is my nemesis. I can't seem to get it right. I'll tell you what, Beth, we will do one or both of those on Thursday. So make sure you watch on Thursday. I will specifically pick, maybe we'll do them separate so we can spend more time with it. But I'll pick one for sure with either skin or fur. And then after we do that on Thursday, then we can talk about doing the other one next week. I have a couple of images in mind. I drew a Yeti that we could use to practice fur, because sometimes, or we could use the Sully from the Monsters Inc. movie, because that they have a lot of fur and their bodies, it's like when you start out, like if something is straight, it's easy to know that up and down or side to side, pick one. But when you have a whole animal and you got fur going everywhere, you're like, how do I make that fur look good? So I can show you some techniques that will help with the fur for sure. And then the skin tones, we can practice those. Those are, yeah. I don't really have a bunch of issues with skin tones at all. Usually that I do that part first because I used to do it first because it used to be my nemesis as well. But I don't start with it first ever anymore because, or I don't start with it first because I struggle. I start with it first because it's easy. Hair was always the hardest for me. I believe hair and eyes were the two that took me the longest to feel comfortable with. And then the one before that would be skin. So, yeah, I definitely get it. I understand what you're saying. Now, this one, we blended all the colors together, but this part, we're just coloring in the white, just like we did in the bottom one. So we want to kind of show those different variations of color. I think will be very helpful in getting this the way that we want it to be. So if you missed that when we were doing the top, now you'll be able to see, because we're going to do it on the bottom, back and forth. I got a really great image I drew that has a lot of skin that we could do. It's not really a purse. I mean, it's more like a, what did I call it? More like a troll. But you could do it in skin tone colors. But I'll pick a person. I have a few that I really want to do, so we'll just add those. Well, I like how this one's coming out. These different colors have really changed, and I'm really glad that we chose the 52 because it's significantly lighter, so it's really giving some highlight effect on this. A little bit more highlight effect than we got on the bottom, but we can always fix that if we want to add more on the bottom using the colorless blender. That's a chocolate strawberry macaroon. Yes, it is. And it looks so good, doesn't it? Okay, so RV 66 is the darkest color that we have not used yet. So we're going to use this one just for the shadow areas because it is way pinker. Pinker? Is pinker a name? Way more pink than what we intended for this image to come out as. So we're just doing a little bit, and then we're going to have to go over it with our not so pink color. But we want to build in that wall area between the airy section and the smooth section of the macaroon. I have no idea how you would ever cook one of these or bake one of these and make it airy here and not here. I don't understand. But then again, you know, I don't cook anything, so of course I wouldn't know how to do that. But whoever can do that, that's pretty amazing. I'm impressed if you can do that. RV 34, we're going to try to add this over top of that really bright pink to build a little bit of shadowy here. I'm going to go along the bottom here. I don't think I put the dark color along the bottom, but I really want to darken that up just a little bit. Now, I don't want to do too much over this because I really like that line that's there. But this part that I stuck underneath the chocolate, I need to soften that up just a little bit. So I want to go into these areas too because they're not standing out as much as they did when we first did them. So I'm just going to go over them one more time with this color. Make them stand out just a little bit. I'm liking it. It's going well. Now we're going to add a little bit more of this RV42 just because it's a different color, but not too much. So we're just going to do like right along this edge where the dark color meets the light color. Just to soften that. I'm going to do it down here. Just around the edges. We don't want it to look like it cooked too long in the oven. So we're going to be a little careful that we don't do too much of that. And then we have to go over it with that last color in order to change that really bright salmon color. We got to bring it back to our pink color. So one swoosh over top, all the way across. Will give us that. Same thing on the bottom. We're just covering up that color. And we're going to soften this up. Just run your marker along the line. And it'll start softening that. Did you see how that worked out? You just go along that line, that edge where you can see that line. Here, I'll do it down here too so you can see it. And it will just soften that up so that you don't have a harsh line there. That's a really important technique to learn. It's colorless blender time. So we're going to go in here, some of these white areas, and just make them a little bit more. And do the white side. Not completely white, but definitely lighten them up. Kind of looks like I left them fairly light to begin with, so you would probably think when you're looking at it, how is that even going to make a difference? But it will. And remember, we had to go over it a couple of times, so I'm going to choose a little spot down here as well, back over top of where we went before, and just start working that out. Same as we did at the bottom. It's the same technique. It's just different colors. And see how much lighter that gets? Looks a little more airy. It looks like there's a lot more lighter, so we're probably going to go in and add a few dots to make that look a little more airy, if you will. I don't even know if airy is a word, but you guys, I'm pretty sure you know what I mean. If you've seen a macaroon or had a macaroon, you know what I'm talking about. There's always that airy with the bubbles or the openings or whatever. I don't know how to explain that. But I think you guys get what I'm saying. So just doing that back and forth in a few different places. The more you do it, the more ink will move, the lighter it will get. Now don't think just because you can move this color like this that you can do it with everything, because red is extremely hard to move. It usually just makes a mess. So you have to be really careful with the red. And for some reason, some greens will leave like a yellow residue where the green was. So while you can still do this, you just need to be a little careful when you're doing it. So definitely test your colors for sure. I like that. The top part is a little bit lighter, but that's because I really wanted to come in here and put a little bit more in here. So I'm going to do it with my marker upright. So I can put just a few little spots in there to kind of take a little bit of that harsh white out of there. Just adding a little bit more. And then I'm going to go in with the colorless blender and soften those dots so they don't look like big dots, if you will. You know what I mean. It's just adding color back in, but I'm spreading that color out with this colorless blender. There we go. It put a little bit more in there. Made me a little bit happier. If you thought that this part was not light enough, like let's just say for right here, if you run your colorless blender across it, it's going to lighten it up a little bit, and each time you do it, it's going to lighten it even more. So you want to be careful how many times you do it and how often you do it. Starting to move. Do you see the line? You see the line appearing on there from where I'm going across it? You see it? Now look at that. Isn't that cool? This gives the impression that there's a highlight on the rounded part of that. So you can for sure do that as well. Another technique you might like. All right. So we have 2 macaroons. They're super cute. They look super yummy. So many different things you could do. Let's make a hamburger. Right here. Because this one looks like it's a macaroon upside down. This macaroon looks upside down. This one looks right side up. Let's do that. Let's make this macaroon into a hamburger. Are you ready? So I think that our brown is too brown for the bun. I think if we were going to do a bun, we would need it to have something more of like the E30 range. So let's test it out and see what we think. So let's try with E37. I think E39 and our bun's gonna look burned. E35. E33. So far so good. That looks a bit like a bun. What if we took E53 and added it? See? Now how nice is that? That is what we needed. Just a little bit different tone with there. So as I was going along, I was like, this is brown, but I need to bring in that natural tan color. So that's why we added that last color there. Now for our hamburger, we want that to look cooked really good. So I am going to start off with E47. And we'll go in with 49 if we need to, but I think I like 47. Let's see 29. Okay, so 29 is darker than 47. So we're going to use 29 as our darkest color. And then 47. And then I think I want to go back to 27. Nope, that's not gonna work because the 27 is darker than the 47. Although, yeah, I think we need that 47 in there though. I really like that 47. Let's go 47. This is the 47 again, E47. And I did it twice so I could test E25. I like E25 and E23. I wanted to test them both and see which one I liked better. I think I'll go with the 25. Now, whenever we have a burger, we need a little bit of pink in there. So we need a color that's going to work well with the pink. So we're going to try our 12. I think we'll be able to put a little bit of that pink in there, making it look a little bit juicy. We want a juicy burger for sure. Okay, so that would be our burger, and then we need cheese. So we're gonna do double burger and cheese and bun. So that's what we're gonna do. I think for our cheese, we need to start with like, I don't know if this is gonna be too, oh, that might be okay. That Y19, and then we need to get much brighter for our cheesy. I like the Y15. I think the Y11 is going to be too light. This is Y11. Yeah, too yellowy, not the right color. This one is still too yellowy. I think we need to pick one of the ones that people barely use, which is like Y32, YR30, YR21, or YR31. One of these, I think, is probably going to be better for a cheese color. This doesn't look like cheese. So this is our YR21. This is YR31. Kind of like those. That one might be a little bit too, I don't know. This one is Y32. So I kind of like that. Let's see. Let's see what this one looks like. This one is Y35. See, I like that better for a cheesy look. And Y32, and then we're gonna do YR21. So we're gonna choose these three colors. They sound a little crazy for cheese, but we're gonna do it anyway. And let's start with our cheese. Why not, right? Okay, so Y35. So for anybody popping in, we're making a cheeseburger out of these macaroons. Okay, so this is going to be our cheesy. Going to be our cheesy. I'm going to leak some cheesy. I just feel like leaking some cheese. Because who doesn't like cheese that's all over everywhere? Now, if we'd have done this no lines, we could leak our cheese all over the place. But Y32, I'm going to mix that one in. I'm going to drip us some cheese over there on the side. YR21. And I'm just filling in those light areas. Now I'm going to go back with my Y35. And I'm going to build in some more dark. I do like this cheesy color better than that really light yellow. I think the really light yellow is too light. And I wish I could get rid of that black line right there. I got a burger the other day. My cheese was all over here. It looked terrible. Glad I'm not the only one who does swatches of color. This is very cheeseburger in paradise. Yes, it is cheeseburger in paradise. Okay, time for the burger part. Now remember we said E29, E47, E25, and R12. R12 sounds crazy, but we're going to do it anyway. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of the R12, just kind of mixed in real quick, and we'll go right over top of that, and we'll add the R12 back in after the fact, but we need it underneath so that it looks juicy. So E29, it's gonna be our darkest color. And because it's a hamburger, and hamburgers are a bit textured looking as well, we're going to go ahead and work in some of these dark areas kind of by using the artist lines as well, so we can make this look like it's really good. I want to eat this burger. I want this burger to be so good that we want to eat it. So I'm adding a little bit more. I want some places of my burger to be dark and some to be lighter. And so I have to add a little bit here and a little bit there. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to go along my cheese first. And then I'm going to go spotted along the bottom of this bun, just in a few, skipping a few areas as I go. And then we're going to start building in a little bit dark in some spots, a little bit light in others. Right now it looks a little funny, but it's because we haven't built in everything yet, but I think we're getting there. Next is going to be E47. And E47, it's a little bit more mellow of a brown. It's not a dark brown, so it's what's going to give us that middle type of tone. So this is the one that I'm going to put kind of close to those pink areas. Just building in more and more. And same thing down here. This is like, don't they sell them like bites when you go to a restaurant? Sliders. I think they call them sliders. These kind of look like sliders to me. Made you so hungry you're making pizza that you're not sharing. That's funny. I know, I'm making myself hungry too. But this is really going to look like a cheeseburger. It's my little leaky cheese is funny, but this isn't something we were going to put on a card, so I was just playing around. E25 is next. So a lot of this will be covered in, leaving just small areas of the pink part left open for us to go over the pink again. Because I don't want this to be, I'm not a rare burger eater, but I definitely like there to be a little bit of pink on there. So since I can't cook, I can color it to be the kind that I want. Now we're going to go back over it again with our R12 in just those open areas. And we may have to go over that one more time because that's, well, no, I think that actually looks pretty good. But it might be a little bit too pink for me. Like, I don't want to give anybody a raw hamburger. I'm kind of building in that pink. Maybe I'll pull that E23 back in so that I don't go over it with too dark of a color. So I'm going to grab that E23 one more time. I put it away, but I didn't mean to. And I'm going to touch as light as possible over some of the areas that I think are a little bit too pink for me. So just using a little bit of this E23, just a teeny bit. Who'd have thought macaroons as double cheeseburgers? Yum. Who would have thought? Perfect. That is what I was looking for. Something just a little pink, but not too pink. I think that R12 was a great choice for that. I need lettuce and mayo. I know. But there's no lettuce and mayo on this one. Although we could have, you know, switched it around, but I thought this part looked much more like a burger than the middle part. But you could make that lettuce or tomato, or we could probably play with that and come up with something. I do like lettuce. I don't usually eat tomatoes on my hamburgers, but that's just because I always gave that part to my son when he was little because he loved tomatoes, and then I just got used to not eating them. Okay, E37 is going to be our bun. So we're going to put a little bit of this color. This is the darkest one, just around the top and the bottom of the bun. Only because we want it to look like they toasted the bun a little bit. Just a little bit. I don't want it to be too dark. I don't want it to look like a burned bun. I want it to look like a good bun. E35. I think this is more like the true color of my bun. I almost said of my buns. There we go. Got a little bit from the bottom. I don't want this to look like it's bad bread. That's why we need that E53. That E53 is going to make a world of difference. So I'm going to go E33 real quick, and then we're going to go over the whole thing with E53. So I'm going to go along where the meat is right here, bottom of the bun. Top of the bun. I'm also going to go up just a little bit from here to soften that color. And then we're going to use our E53, and we may have to do tip to tip, and French fried potatoes. And French fried potatoes. We're going to mix these two together. So it's going to take us a little bit of work because this one up here is much darker, but it'll be okay. I'm using about a pressure of a 3 or a 4 for that because I want that to really saturate the paper so that the colors will mix together nicely. And now I'm going to work along this line, just where they meet, the two colors meet, to try to soften that up. So just working along that line. You see how that softened that up for me? I like that. And then I'm going to do it real quick along the bottom. Perfect. Now we're going to do this bottom one as well. Doesn't this look yummy? This almost looks as good as the cookies, as the macaroons, and it's not even, it looks like a yummy burger. Okay, we're going to work the transition areas real quick. Just anywhere that I can see a line, we're going to soften that bottom bun up a little bit. There we go. Now, we have a bun with some leaky cheese. We should probably put a little bit of color underneath that leaked cheese because it's probably burned from being on the grill. That's how mine was when it got it the other day. It was like you left it on the grill too long and the cheese leaked out, and then it got kind of toasty on the bottom of it, so it wasn't yummy. Cheese needs to be a darker orange. Okay. Let's see. That our dark was Y35. We have a Y38. Do you like that darker cheese? Let's try. This is Y38. This is kind of deepening that shadow color. That's kind of nice. And then let's try Y35. I've never had to make cheese before. Let's bring our Y35 to soften that up a little bit. Like that. How does that look? Better? Because now I wouldn't put any other lighter yellow in there to keep it darker. But if I wanted to lighten up the like highlighted cheesy area, I would use the colorless blender and just kind of run it into a couple of areas to lighten the cheesy part. So it looks like it's a big group of cheesy instead of... I also might be tempted to put a little bit more dark on the top of the bun, but not much. I mean, I sometimes get buns that are way too dark, but you know how that goes. Soften that. And then we'll come in with the E53 and just lighten that edge. Here's our burger, honey. Dale just came in the room, so he didn't see us building our burger. There's our burger with some leaky cheese, which will look better if we've done it with no lines. What time is it? Do we have time to do one more with no lines? I think we have time. If you guys want to stick around, I will do one more with no lines so you can see the difference. Do you want me to do the burger or a macaroon? You tell me, and we'll do one more with no lines.
Did you put the googly eyes on the burger?
I did not, but I should. Where'd they go? They were right here. I don't know where they went, honey. They were right here. Oh, there they are. Dale says we need the eyeballs on the burger. Oh my gosh. He does look like the Hamburglar. Look at that.
Oh, you need to do a thing with that.
I may have to cut that out and use that burger because that is really cool. Okay, so when we use no lines, this is what I use. Memento, it's the same, just like, but instead of tuxedo black, we're using desert sand. And I'm just going to stamp it. I put one macaroon on my block, and then I'm gonna push that aside real quick and pull out a different piece of paper so I can play around with details and such. Let's see, I haven't used this in a long time. Either one would be fine with me. A hamburger, Dale, you're a genius.
Just see the potential.
He's very good at seeing things like that. He doesn't know how to color yet. I'm going to teach him, though. But he does have he's very opinionated when it comes to stuff like that. So there's no lines. So as you can see, it's almost the colors we're going to be using for the hamburger. So let's do the hamburger. We're going to look so much better. You need to keep it. Okay, so let me put that over there. I'm going to set our smiley hamburger over here. And we're going to use the same colors, and we're going to color this one more time, except for with the cheese, we're going to use the suggested new cheese colors with a little bit dark, going a little bit darker on the cheese. So I'm going to start with the cheese like I did before, which is this time Y38, one step darker than the cheese that we originally used. So when you start putting that in there, just remember you're not going to have that dark black line anymore. And when you go over like the lines in the cheese and in the burger and stuff, you're not going to see those when you're finished. So in this case, I'm just going to build my cheese over a little bit further than where that line was for cheese. Hi, Dee Ann. How are you? Super happy to see you. So I know this seems a little crazy. This is the macaroons, slimline macaroons from Colorado Craft Company, and we're making it into a hamburger, a cheeseburger. And we've decided, since we have one cheeseburger right here, we're going to do it with no lines so we can see like how awesome it looks. I'm going to build in a few little, levels in the cheese. So I've just added a couple of lines in there just so it's not one smooth, piece. Then we're going to go to Y35. And we're going to start extending out from where we put that first layer. Try not to spend a lot of time on it. I don't want to blend it out. I want to leave it a little bit rough. I don't do a lot of no lines coloring. It just isn't technically what I normally do. I don't know why. I think for personal preference, I just like the black lines, but in this case, I liked it better without. Just came back from North Carolina yesterday. Oh my, traveling. Traveling is always exhausting. Y32, and we're not going to blend it all. We're just going to fill Y32 in the white areas. That will keep us with some different levels of color in there, which I like. Oh, wow. Loads of work now. 5 schools. Oh, my goodness. That is a lot of work. Okay. Our hamburger colors. We started out with R12. So we would have some, pinky flesh part in our pinky yumminess in our burger. So just randomly putting that little bit of pinky color on there. Now this is the one where you could actually add lettuce and tomatoes if you wanted, because your lines are going to be hidden. You won't see the lines, so you could build your own lines. But I would have to think a little more on that, so we're not going to do that tonight, but we can do it another time. E29. Okay, so now we're going to start building in the outline of the burger, and I want it to go a little bit up and down. I don't want it to be a smooth line. I want kind of a jagged line, because our burger's not a smooth, line. And then I'm going to do the same thing around the cheese. The cheese is already up and down a little bit, like right here, like my burger's in there a little bit more. And then I'm going to start working in some of these little areas, because remember, we had to have a little bit of the darkness inside burger. Same thing as what we did before. We're just doing it with no lines on it. You can still see them while you're working, but they start disappearing as you start building in your image. Which is why a lot of people like it and a lot of people are afraid of it. Like, I did not do it for a long time because I was afraid that I wouldn't look good. You know, like I'd lose the line or it would look funny. And so you just have to trust the process and keep going, because right now this just looks craziness. But just keep at it. Keep going. Don't stop. And then you will be surprised at what happens in the end. So building in some of the darker parts. Now we're going to flip to our E47. And we're going to start building that in a little bit more. Get our outside going. This one is the one that's a little bit of a more muted brown than the brown we had before. Homeschool gives me more perspective of what teachers do. You're so unappreciated, but no, I appreciate you. Yes, I understand. Homeschool is, I always wanted to homeschool my kids, but I couldn't stay home. I had to work. But I thought it would be fun. I always wanted to be a teacher, so I thought it would be really fun, but it'll also be a lot of work. A lot of work. Okay, so we have part of our burger done now. Is that what you do? Do you homeschool your kids? Do you have young kids? I don't even know how old your kids are. E25 is next. I'm not sure if you had little ones, teenagers, all grown up. I don't know. We're building in our 25, doing a lot more with this one because this is more like the color of our burger. So it's coming along nicely. We're leaving a little bit of those open spots with that pink so that our burger doesn't look like it's been charred terribly. Just leave us a little bit of pink.
Oh, an outer crust is good.
Huh?
An outer crust is good.
Dark? You like
smash burger.
Yeah, you like it. Yeah, I like smash burgers. Okay, next we have our R12 where we're going to add just a little bit more of the pink in there. So I'm just kind of doing the same thing I did at the very beginning, just adding a little bit of that pink in there. Your son's almost 20, he graduated. Oh, nice. My kids are older than that. Work for a photographer and sell photos at preschools. I have 2 boys, 30 and 31, and 4 grandchildren. Oh my goodness, how great is that? I love photography. E23. I always wondered who did that, how you got into doing those pictures. Well, I say always, but back when, I mean, like I went to school, like I'm a professional photographer as well, but I always wondered how people got into getting the gig at the school. I could never figure out a gig to do. So I did some weddings, and I like to do senior portraits and things like family portraits and stuff. But I just felt bad charging people a ton of money for that stuff. Or Dale when he's dressed up. Right? I mean, that's got to be awesome. I just got my picture. I just got Cooper's school picture. I think that my burger is a little bit too light. I think I need just a little bit more of the dark. So I'm going to go back in with my E29 for just a little bit. I'm going to do some of these little dots in here. Just add a teeny bit more. I feel like it needs just a little bit more of the dark. More like not a well done, but more like a medium well, I guess. Just want a little bit more dark in here. And that's what happens when you use no lines. You don't have that black line. Before that, I was a director at a preschool for 16 years. Wow, that is so cool. Nice. Thank you. You like the burger, Cheryl, huh? Kind of amazing how you can build it out, and just without the lines, it looks even that much better. Before that, you worked in the pet field. That's awesome. I mean, you got to getting all the little critters, the little pets and the little kids, and that's a well-rounded career right there. So much cool stuff. Photography and I didn't do fun stuff. I was an accountant, financial analyst. Senior financial analyst. No, just not the fun stuff. And now I'm going to pop in with my E25 because I feel like my E47 is too dark, too brown, dull, subtle. I don't know what you want to call it.
Careful, don't overcook your burger.
I'm not. I'm just getting a little bit more in here. So my bun's going to be really light. I want my hamburger to look different than my bun. Okay, that's good. And now I need to soften up these really dark lines that I have at the bottom on this burger. I mean, look at this yummy burger. Look, you're going to have to make us a snack when I'm done, Dale. It's nice to have an image. You can change it up. Like, this is a cookie to a burger. I know, right? It's crazy. Okay, here comes our burger bun. E37 is the darkest color we picked for our bun. And remember, just like before, I wanted it to be darker at the top. So we're going to go over that line. Don't worry, we'll soften it up a little bit with the next color. There we go. And then I want the bottom part of it to be a little bit of this color as well. I'm just going to put that whole line in there, and we'll build from there. So that's just our darkest stuff. Grooms, show dogs, boxers, Great Danes, Golden Retriever, bred Dalmatians, and Dobermans. Wow, that's cool. And Beth, you work for the IRS, and now you're a librarian. Librarian sounds like fun. Do you work at a school or a public library? This is E35. This one is the color that I want the outside of the bun to be, so I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to soften the top of the bun. And then I'm going to come over here and go along that line as well. So I want a little bit more of the top of this, right, just like that. And I'm going to come along, just along the edge of the meat area, like that. And I'm going to do sort of this at Public Library, sort of the same thing down here that I did up there. Filling in the sides and softening and extending this bottom part of the bun right there. But we want that to come down. Soften this up. And then again, right along the meat area, we want to put a bit of this color there. That is awesome. I get to learn what you guys do. E33. Start building down from this, but not too far. I want to come up a little bit from here as well. And we're going to leave a little bit of white area that we're going to use our E53 for, which is going to lighten it up and give it that more of a bun look than this brown that's a little bit dark for a bun. I always wanted to be a librarian. My sister-in-law is one. Oh, really? I think that would be very... I know my aunt was a librarian when I was young. We used to go see her at the library all the time. Okay, we're going to go over the top part because this marker has more colorless blender in the color. So it's going to kind of give a little texture there. So we're going to work now this line at the bottom. And then we're going to kind of work this line, but we're going to sort of push that up so that we can push our cooked part of our bun towards the top. Like that. Retired at 48. And then this job fell in my lap. I didn't apply for it. Yeah, I got one of those coming down the line right now too. Okay, I have to soften this line just a little bit more. I feel like it's just a little bit not the way I want. There we go. Okay. I do feel like we have a bit of a lapse between this dark, really dark area and this part right here. So I'm coming back with my E33 and I'm just going to put this down just a little bit so we can kind of make that look like it really does transition well between those two colors. So right now it feels like it's not quite smooth enough for me. And then we're going to go over the whole thing with that E53 one more time to make sure we got like a really nice color. There we go. I feel like it's not work. You love your job. Nothing is better than that. Nothing is better than loving your job. Seriously. I really, really loved the job that I had before COVID. And then that was E53. It's a little bit too light, so I'm coming back in with E33. Was a senior financial analyst and did some really cool stuff, and I really enjoyed that. But then my whole job changed after COVID happened. And so I ended up retiring from it. But I go back and help every now and then. My favorite thing was having a craft company. There you go.
Googly eyes.
What do you think? Do you like your hamburger?
Do a side by side with the other one with the lines.
I'm going to. Here he is with his googly eyes. Let me put my cap back on this marker so it doesn't dry out or anything. And this marker, since I had them laying all over my desk. And we're going to put them by this hamburger so you can see them. Now see? That's your dream one day? Yeah. Me too. So, while we thought this one was amazing, this one is even more amazing. Don't you think? This one almost looks better with the eyeballs.
Yes.
Because it looks more
cartoonish.
animated, and this looks more real. So I like it better like that. That looks like yummy. We could even make this a sausage and egg sandwich if you wanted to, because it kind of looks like that too. Breakfast food. And then here are our cookies. Same stamps, different process. You love the eyeballs?
Put the big ones on there.
And then Dale got these too, because, you know, he couldn't help himself. A cheeseburger from McDonald's. Yes, exactly. And this one almost looks like a frog because the eyes are so big. So, this was so much fun. I really enjoyed doing this with you guys. But this was just playing with the, we do so many things. Yeah, she does so many things. Yeah. They make the burger look like he's smiling. I know, it's so cute, right? So you can make these, I mean, you have to think outside of the box when you get a stamp set. What else could you make out of it? Sometimes it just jumps out at you and sometimes it doesn't. And so for Dale, this one happened to jump out at him like it was a hamburger. But for me, I saw the cookies.
The third one down.
Yeah.
If you were to put some lines going from the middle outward and build some texture into it, you might be able to make it into like a mussel or a clam.
Dale thinks we can make that into a mussel or a clam, but we ain't doing that tonight. It was 10 cents when you were growing up. Oh my goodness. I bet my mama could answer something similar to that as well. But this is just giving you some technique ideas on how to play with colors, how to build something, how to think about a stamp in a different manner. Just wanted to do a little playing tonight. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, make sure you check in on Thursday because there will be a giveaway on Thursday. So, we'll be doing another giveaway like we did before. I still have a couple of those left over and I want to do them. So definitely join me on Thursday night, 8:30 Central. It's only for the live version. So if you're watching on YouTube, this video, you'll want to go check out the Facebook group, which is Fans of Ledoux Designs, for Thursday night. Thanks so much for joining me. It was so much fun. You guys were great. Have a good evening, and I will see you guys on Thursday. Good night.